Hi and welcome to Fabric Bites. It is Sunday, August 18th, 2024, and I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm still deviating off my list, but I haven't given up my list. I am going to go back to it eventually. But school is back in session again, and that got me thinking kind of a schoolish way. And I decided I wanted to try to make a tens frame quilt. Now, I don't quilt generally, but again, these things get stuck in my brain, and I just want to see if I can produce them. So I don't know what the rules are for quilting. I mean, I've tried it in the past, so maybe I'll be able to figure it out. Maybe I'll do some of this right. I don't know. But this is what I'm going to try to do. This is my final pattern I've drafted out here. And how I started off was, sorry, the light is right behind me, so my camera is shadowing. I'll turn it this way. There we go. Nope. Gonna have a shadow no matter what. I started out by figuring out what I wanted the white squares to be. And then from there, I knew then what my vertical little short stripes would be that are going to go between them. So I've decided I'm going to put these, and I've already done it, this together first in rows, and then I was going to add the strip in the middle, and then do the sides, and then do the top and the bottom. That's how I'm putting it together. So that's how I figured out what my dimensions would be. And so knowing what the white squares were, it was easy enough to figure out what these center black strips would be. And then from there, I estimated, knowing that I wanted them all to be at 3 inches wide, I just estimated the length, and that's why it's in red in my notes, because it's just kind of, I'm not really sure on that. And I gave myself some cushion on that too, so there's probably a little bit too long, just in case I made a mistake. And then I am going to use batting, and I'm going to have a back to it, so I kind of estimated what the back would end up being. But I didn't cut that out. I'm not cutting it out, obviously, until the very end. I just kind of needed to know approximately what size it was, so to make sure I had enough fabric on that. And so what I decided was I'm going to put batting on it, but I don't want a lot of lines, quilting lines through here. So I'm actually going to quilt the batting to the back side first. And then once I have it all put together, front and the back put together, then I'm going to go ahead and stitch in the ditch to attach the front to that batting, and hopefully that won't put a whole lot of lines on the back, but it might. We'll see how that works out. I have to keep that in mind as I'm putting the quilting, the batting onto the other side. Not quite sure what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out as I go. And then the way I've done my picture here, I don't know if you can see it, is the lines are all in different shades of gray. And so the lightest gray, which you probably can't tell, is this, because that was my first step. I'm going to attach these black strips that are denoted in the lightest gray to the white first, and then the next darkest shade of gray is this one. That's my next step. And then these ones are actually a little bit lighter than these, because these are next, and then the darkest is here. But I also put it in writing in case I couldn't tell by my picture, which I can, but I'm sure it doesn't show up quite well in camera on that. And those are just visual cues for me. What I decided doing this one, I kind of change it up every time I'm sewing. So what I have done so far is I do have my rows of 5. My 5 frame here and my 5 frame here, they're both done. And I have my strips of black sewn together. Not sure if I sewed enough. I just kind of guessed at it to start, and I'll add more to it later if I need more. And what I did here was, so I've used this in another project. I don't have a white, and I don't want to go buy it. So I used this fabric because I've got a lot of it, but it is actually a little bit, this is actually the front, and it's got a little bit too much color in it that I didn't want that. So I'm using the back of it as my front, and the same thing with the black. This is actually, let's see if I can get that in camera. That's actually the front of the fabric. I needed a solid black, so I'm using the back for my stripes here. So seems to be working on that. So there's that all together. So my next step is going to be, I know I should have used black thread, but my next step is going to be to put this, the middle piece in right here, and get this whole center section built, and then I'll put the ends on and the top and the bottom on. I think I already said that, but all right, so I'm going to get started on that, and see you back in just a bit. Okay, so I have the center stripe on. Some of my lines didn't come out perfect, but that's a-okay. On that, I've got the upper or lower, doesn't matter, stripe pinned in place here, or clipped in place. I'm going to sew that on, and then I don't quite have enough of this, so I'm going to have to make an extension on this to do the base. What I did tonight was I had the backing piece cut out, so I quilted the batting onto that backing piece, and I've stitched the back to the front. I'm not going to use binding, I'm just going to stitch it and then flip it. So what I need to do is cut my corners, and when I cut my backing piece, I did cut it too long, so I need to cut that off, that excess off. I'm going to flip it through, clip the corners, and then see where I'm at with that next step. I did also decide to add little tabs. You can see the end sticking out here, so it can be hung up on a wall. I'm still deciding whether or not I want to put little Velcro strips on the other side, but I'll do that after I flip it through, because I don't actually, the back will be against stuff or flat on a table or flat on the floor. So I'm not really worried about showing that stitching on the back side. So next step, flip and turn, press. So here's the back done. Here I still need to close my turning gap right over here on this side, but it's pressed. And here is a glimpse at the front. And so I'm going to go close that turning gap, and then I'm going to go try to stitch carefully in here so that the front, because the batting is only attached to the back, so the front will be attached all the way through to the with the batting as well. And so I'll end up with some squares through here, or rectangles, and hopefully it'll look okay. So on to that step. And there it is done. So I ended up hand stitching it closed on the edge. I'm not actually sure which side that was at, but I did hand stitch. I used a ladder stitch to hand stitch the edge closed. And then you can kind of see, so when I quilted the front side to the back side that was pre-quilted, you can see that, of course, the squares don't match, and that's how it came out. I think next time, if I were to do this again, which I'm not planning on, I would skip all these pre-quilting lines and just still stitch it to the, quilt it to the back, but only do one big, maybe rectangle around the outside, just to hold the batting in place while I'm working with it, knowing that I'm going to actually get all of these squares and quilt it that way. So I think I would skip that. But other than that, I actually think that everything came out the way I wanted it to. I did skip the binding on the edges and just put the two pieces together, sewed around the edges and flipped it. And then I did opt to put some loops on here. I put 4 loops on, one at each end, and then 2 in the center here. And as I said, I hand stitched it closed. I didn't really need to do that. I think I could have. I'm not actually sure where I hand stitched it closed, but I did a ladder stitch. I could have just, used black, because it's black on both sides. I could have just stitched a top stitch to close it. I think that would have been just fine as well. But I do like the ladder stitches. The thing with the black that I'm noticing too a lot is every time I move it, I have to delint it. It's just, I don't know if it's coming up on camera, but you can see I have actually run a lint roller over this multiple times already on that. But that's okay. That's just a choice of color. Let me flip it around so you can see the front. Okay, and there's the front right there on it. So I think it came out okay. Some of my lines didn't line up completely perfect on it, but hopefully it's not too terribly noticeable. I'm happy with it for a non-quilter quilting. So there it is. So I hope you like it. I hope that whenever you're at, you're having a great time, and thanks for watching.